Hi, my name is Dave Lee. I am an individual investor based in Texas in the US, and I run a YouTube channel on investing. Now, I don't work for a nonprofit. I'm not like a refugee specialist, but in the past several months, I've helped several families leave Afghanistan to go to Pakistan. And in the process, I've been helping these families try to come to Canada through private sponsorship. And through the process, I've learned a lot of things. And the purpose of this video is, I'm not trying to, per se, get more people to for me to help directly, because my hands are filled with the people I'm helping. But I want to share some of the lessons. So if there are other Afghan refugees out there that are trying to get to Canada, they know the steps at least, right? So in this video, I'll share the steps, and I want to encourage you, and I'm going to share some tips on what I think is the best way to make it happen. I'm working together, or I've given this idea to Stephen Watts of the Northern Lights organization, and I've asked him to go ahead and post this, share this video with as many people as possible, especially because the timing is urgent. There's currently a special Afghan program in Canada where they're expediting applications at this moment. And many people are saying that this will be a very fast process. It could be even less than a year before people get to Canada through this program. Actually, some people are already arriving in Canada through this program. So this is very, very fast. So what I want to do here is I want to go through an overview of Canada's private sponsorship, and then I want to go into some tips on how you can make it happen, okay? So here's Canada's private refugee, sponsorship program. So they have a regular kind of program that's been going on for many years, and it is one of the world's best refugee program. And one of the reasons why it's the best is when you arrive at the airport through this program, you get immediate, basically, permanent residence in Canada. Now, this is a really, really big deal because this gives you full rights, almost all of the rights as a citizen of Canada. You can work, you can get education, you could go places, do anything you want. It's an amazing, amazing program. And typically, the regular program could take anywhere from 2 to 5 years after you turn in your application. It could take a few years to get to the place where you can turn your application. So it could be a lengthy process, but it's worth it because you get immediate permanent residence when you arrive. So all of your status issues are taken care of. There are many people in the US and in Canada who have stayed for 10 or 20 years in the US or Canada, and they still don't have permanent residence. So if you can get permanent residence just within 3 or 5 years, this is actually very, very fast. So don't ever think that the timeline for Canada is too long. It's actually very reasonable because of what they give you, right? They give you immediate permanent residence. All right, so for private sponsorship, there's basically a few different routes. So one route is what you call a SAW, right? And a SAW is called a sponsorship agreement holder. This is an organization that is officially recognized by the Canadian government to be able to sponsor or turn in sponsorship applications for refugees and their families. Now, these organizations have certain guidelines that they need to keep, or else their kind of status would be revoked by the government. The benefit of the SAW is you don't need actually UNHCR status, right? This is the benefit because the SAW actually is able to vet and do their own due diligence on the refugees. So that's a big benefit. All right. The other way of private sponsorship is the group of 5, right? And this is where you get 5, Canadian permanent residents or citizens to group together to basically sponsor, right, you or your family to Canada. These group of 5 will take on some financial responsibility and other types of responsibilities to help you adjust, right, in Canada. The issue with the group of 5 is basically you need to find these 5 people, and then also you need UNHCR status. Okay, and then there's also something called the community sponsor which could be like an organization or a business. It acts similar to the Group of Five, and you need UNHCR status. All right, so this is the typical kind of process you can go through. Again, the timeline is different per country, right? Some countries are, after you turn in the application, it might be 2 or 3 years. Other countries might be 3 or 4, even 5 years. But again, don't worry about the timeline because you get permanent residence when you get to Canada. That is the key. You get all the rights of a citizen. All right, so this program for private sponsorship now is very high in demand in Canada because it is like the world's probably best program, right? So every March, the SAHs get to turn in these applications to the government, okay, for the refugee and the refugee families. In January or so, that's when the government announces and gives the spots to the SAHs. Okay, so they announce the number of spots, and then in March, the SAHs are able to start turning in their applications for that year. The problem is, so let's say this is 2022. The problem is this is a really high demand program because I'm talking about the SAHs right now. So you usually need to get a spot 1 to 2 years in advance. Okay, and you really need to build a relationship with these SAH organizations, have them trust you, tell them your story. So this is one of the big issues. The second thing that you need is, besides the SAH, so let's say the first thing is the SAH, right? If you do the SAH, or you need a Group of 5 or something, right? If you have UNHCR status. The second thing you need are the funds. Okay, typically if you go through a SAH, the SAH doesn't provide the funds, right? And so they require you or some people you know somehow to come up with the funds. And there's a certain minimum required funds, okay? And this amount is typically set by the government because they don't want you to come to Canada and not be able to survive, right? So it's the minimum amount that they think you need to survive and do okay in Canada for 1 year. And it comes out to be, it depends. Each SAH has somewhat of a little bit different number, but yeah, it could be something around 18,000 Canadian dollars for an adult. It depends also on the city and the province. It could go up too, right? I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up to 20,000 pretty soon because of inflation. A family of 4, you're looking at something probably like 2 parents and 2 kids, might be something like 32,000 to 35,000, maybe Canadian. Some organizations might require a higher amount because housing could be expensive. But here's the thing, you get this money back when you arrive in Canada. So for the first year, when you're in Canada, this money gets distributed to you on a monthly basis, right? And you get the money back. So in essence, this Canada program is great. It's like basically free, right? Because whatever money you put into it, right, your friends or family or people you know, for the fundraising for your first year, it's given back to you during that first year. So, it comes back. So this is an awesome program. But basically before you, let's say, get a SAH organization to sponsor you or your family, they want to see the funds because without the funds, it's hard for them to process the application. The biggest worry for the SAHs is after you come to Canada, if you don't have enough money and they don't distribute enough money to you, the government can audit their organization. And what that means is they could say, okay, you have this refugee or refugee family that came over a year ago. Show me during that 1 year, the first year in Canada, how much money went right to that family, and it needs to be that minimum amount or higher. And if it's not, that SAH organization can get their license or qualifications revoked or removed by the government, so they can't sponsor any refugees. That's the big kind of concern of the SAHs. So they really want you to have enough funds before you apply usually. There are some SAHs that say like, hey, okay, 75% of the funds before you apply. But actually most SAHs, they require like 100% of the funds, right? Some require even some extra if you live in certain cities with high housing costs, etc. But usually it's 100% of the funds required. There's a great website. It's called RSTP. I think it's like CA, but you can check this out. They have, it's like a minimum it's minimum calculator, like it's a financial calculator that shows kind of the minimum amount required for a family. So you can type in 2 adults, 5 kids, or 1 adult, this is this, and it'll tell you the exact amount, right, that's needed. But again, each SAW can be different. They can adjust that number. A lot of times it's a little bit higher than that. So just be aware of that. All right. The third thing you need besides the funds and the SAW, right? Those are the 2 things. The third thing you need is kind of a local, they call it like a constituent group. Now, each SAW kind of has a different name for this, but so a SAW typically, not always, but a SAW typically is kind of like a bigger organization. Maybe it's a national organization, and they might have many different types of groups associated with it. A local constituent group is basically a group in the city that you are going to go to, and this local group will help you with a lot of different things. Like, for example, going to finding a doctor appointment, or taking you somewhere to get your driver's license, or getting some answers for some of your questions. Now, these local constituent groups, a lot of times it could be a local church, okay? It doesn't have to be a church. It could be a mosque. It could be just a different organization. It can be, just different. Some organizations, some SAHs are okay with individuals, right? Just a group of people, maybe a group of like 5 to 8 people. It depends on how many. If your family is like 4 or 5, if it's just one, they might just require 4 or 5 people. So it depends. But it's basically they want local support, right? People on the ground in your the local city that you're going to be moving to be able to help you. Now, this local group doesn't have to give funds, right? They might not have the money, but they just need to be there for you. So yeah, and so if you don't have this local constituent group, a lot of the SAHs won't talk with you or won't work with you because they need this extra piece, okay? So let's review quickly. So if you go through the SAW program, right, the private sponsorship with a sponsorship agreement holder organization, you basically need to find, let's bring this down. So you basically need to find the SAW organization. 2, you need to find the local constituent group, right? Local constituent group. And then 3, you need the funds. Okay, so these are the 3 kind of key pieces that you're going to need to apply for private sponsorship through a SAW. So why am I bringing all this up? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because there is something called a special Afghan program. They call it actually Operation Afghan Safety, or OAS. Okay, so Operation Afghan Safety is kind of it seems like, and this information might change, and I might have the wrong information, but from what I know, this Operation Afghan Safety is kind of this umbrella program to help Afghans who are outside of Afghanistan to come to Canada, those who are vulnerable. So the key word here is vulnerable, okay? So they want those who, for example, okay, so this is a little tricky. Those who've helped the government or military, they can qualify actually not just for private sponsorship, but they can qualify for a government sponsorship directly, which is even better because the government will take care of a lot of the funds, right? But I'm assuming that in most people's cases, at least those who are watching through Northern Lights, they probably don't have this whole connection where they didn't help the government or military of Canada or the US. So there's this other criteria, which is the vulnerable Afghans. So there's different criteria. You can go to the website. They actually list it out on IRCC. So check out IRCC, Google it, you'll see the website. But basically they're looking for people who are vulnerable, which means they're either journalists, women leaders, LGBTQ, and also those from persecuted ethnic and religious minorities. Okay, so if you can qualify as, and plus you have to be outside the country, right? Outside of Afghanistan. So if you can qualify for this, then you actually can qualify for this special Afghan program. It's called Operation Afghan Safety. So what's going on here? So not a ton of people understand or know all this information because there hasn't been really like a press release, so the government hasn't really laid it out publicly. The government has chosen to give their information directly to the SAH organizations, and the SAH organizations now are supposed to recruit people, but they already have so many people. They're not really publicly sharing everything, I think. I mean, they're willing to, it's just, you know, they're already really busy organizations. So here's what's going on. The government has given 3,000 spots in the special Afghan program to the SAHs. It's divided up. There are about 130 SAH organizations throughout Canada. Some are very small and they only do like 5 refugees per year, right, in the regular program. Some are big and they do like 300, 400 or more, right, refugees per year. Some of these SAHs, they're just like a local group. Like they can be a local church. And then some other SAHs can be like these big organizations, right, with huge staffs of 100 people or more. And so they're really different types of SAHs. Now, each SAH got the allocation, so 3,000 spots. This was about, so right now it's January 12th, I'm recording this video. So probably like three or 4 weeks ago, probably mid-December, probably mid to late December, the government distributed the 3,000 spots. And what happened was, for example, if a SAH regularly gets 75 spots, okay, they regularly get 75 spots every year for the regular program, then that type of SAH got about 10 special Afghan spots for this special program. If an organization got like regularly had 200 spots, then they got about 30, let's say, special Afghan. Okay, this is just a rough example. So the benefit of these special Afghan slots are, this is in addition to the regular slots that these SAHs have. So if, let's say one SAH has 75 regular spots, they get 10 extra spots in addition to the 75 spots, okay? So it's great. It's just more people, right, that the SAHs can sponsor. The second thing, the big thing about this special Afghan program is that it's expedited, okay? So it's expedited in 2 ways. Number one, you don't have to wait till March, right, of that year to turn in the application. You can turn in the application immediately with the SAH, through the SAH. And so this is a great advantage, and they'll process it right away. Second is there's no official timeline by the government, but I've spoken to probably more than 10 SAHs, and they are all expecting it to be processed in 12 months or sooner. Right? So this is a very, very, very fast expedited process for these special Afghan spots. Everything else pretty much works similar as the regular private sponsorship program with the SAH. So it's the same application that they use, right, for the regular sponsorship through the SAH. And it's the same funding requirements, right? The same amount of money that you need. Basically, everything else is exactly the same. It's just these extra spots you get to apply immediately, and they're expedited, right? Super fast compared to the regular program. Now, in order to qualify or to do this, right? After, let's say you got your SAH, you have your local constituent group, right? And then you have your funds, okay? What happens is the SAH needs to fill out a form. this form goes to IRCC, right, the Immigration Canadian government. And this form is basically requesting permission to apply, or it's requesting permission from the IRCC for them to give permission to apply for this special Afghan program for a specific refugee. So let's say you apply and they fill out a form. They say, okay, this is a person, he is Hazara, Shia. They give some information about you, your name and your age. Just it's not too long. It's a brief form. The IRCC replies back and says, okay, this is a vulnerable Afghan who qualifies for the special Afghan program. You can proceed and turn in an application. Okay, so they get that green light, and then the SAH can basically work with you to get the application finished and can turn in the application. After the application is in, the government processes everything, goes through all these different checks. I'm sure there's more people who know about the process than me, but you eventually get an interview in the country you're in. If you pass the interview, right, you go through different biometrics, exit interview, you get travel documents, and you come to Canada. I think there's a medical exam probably and some other things too. But anyways, it's a process, but all of this is expedited for the Special Afghan Program. The other advantage of the Special Afghan Program is there are spots available, even right now. Today is January 12th. So right now, the regular 2022 program, like almost all of the spots are already taken. They're taken like really long time ago because the regular program is fiercely competitive. But for the Special Afghan Program, I've talked to several SAHs, and some of them still have spots. And the reason why they still have spots is because it's just for Afghans, but also it's just for vulnerable Afghans. Okay, so it's for like the ethnic, or religious minorities. It's for the journalists, and it's kind of this opportunity where there's still some spots available. And then here's another good news I want to share with you guys. So I talked with one SAH rep, and even though the government has given 3,000 spots to this program to 130 SAH organizations, this one rep says that the government might be giving more Afghan spots in the coming weeks. Actually, this person was pretty confident. She was like, she really thinks that they're going to give more spots. And the reason is because the government asked each SAH organization, after they gave them the initial spots, they said, this is an initial allocation. Fill out this expression of interest form if you want more spots, and tell us the number of spots that you want more, and then we'll take those and then consider, and we might be giving more spots out for the Special Afghan Program. I'm not sure exactly when this would happen, but it could happen soon. And so anyways, this is good news because even with the 3,000 spots, as of right now, I do know some organizations that do have spots, and then it looks like they're probably going to get more spots, right? These organizations. So this is a fantastic time to try to get a Special Afghan spot if you're able to qualify. I think it's a once in a lifetime opportunity because you get expedited process, right? And it's there's nothing to lose, right? This is probably the best opportunity in the world right now. Okay, so let's talk about some tips. So how can you actually make it happen, right? Actually secure the SAW, right? Secure the funds and secure the local constituent group. All right, so let's talk about first funds, okay? Okay, so with funds, now, if you have the funds already, then you are in a fantastic place because this is the number one most difficult thing for most of the refugees to do is to get the funds required. And a lot of the SAHs, they talk with refugees, but the refugees don't have the money or the funds, or they don't have access to any of that. And the SAHs can't really help them out. But if you're able to have already raised the funds and you have the funds, right, already there, then the SAHs are much more eager to work with you. So and here's the thing, it's like, the funds can come from different places, friends, family, etc., relatives, people you know. And in this video, I'm not going to focus on the funds because I know there's some people who already have the funds. And I want to encourage those who already have the funds to understand that you already have done probably like 60% or 70%, maybe 60% of the work already. And you're so close to coming to Canada through the Special Afghan program if you'll only do additional work. If you really will work hard and get the SAW and get the local constituent group, I think you'll have a chance. I think you can put in this application. So I want to share a little bit more of that, okay? For those who don't have the funds, go ahead, work hard, work your just tail off and try to get these funds ASAP. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Okay, so let's assume you have the funds. Okay, what do you do next? There are two ways to approach this. One is you can contact the SAHs directly. And on the website, the IRCC website, they have a list of the SAW organizations, contact information, or just the names, and you can Google search all of the different phone numbers and email addresses of all these places, and you can contact them directly, right? When you do this, I want to warn you, these organizations, they get maybe hundreds of emails every day, every week. And the emails all sound the same. Like, dear sir, please help me. I am a refugee and I'm needing sponsorship and all this stuff. So if you write a similar email, then it's probably not going to be read. They can't take you seriously because it doesn't stand out, right? So you have to understand that first. So if you want to stand out, you need to do a couple things. One is you need to say that you already have the funds, and you really need to have the funds, right? So you say, I already have the funds. Right? Tell them how much money, right, you have set aside for this. And that will immediately separate you from all the other applicants, or most of them, because they don't have the funds. You do, and the SAHs will take you more seriously if you have the funds. Second, most people just write this lengthy story, right, about their whole history. But the thing is, these SAW organizations, they read these type of stories all the time. So it's not that, it's actually counterproductive sometimes. So what you need to do is just do a quick few sentences on your situation, right? A short thing. And you want to ask for a phone call. Okay? Ask for like a 5-minute phone call or something. The reason why you want to do this is because everybody writes a long email and they can't read them all, right? But not a lot of people ask for a phone call. And you want to get a phone call because this is ultimately, it's a personal relationship. Meaning they need to trust you. They need to trust that you are a legitimate person, that you're not telling a lie, that you are honest and sincere, your story is real. And by having a phone call with them, you're going to get that trust much, much quicker than just trying to email them, right? So yeah, you want to use these tips wisely. You want to, make sure you tell them you have the funds, that, you want a phone call. The other thing you want to do is you want to be persistent. Okay, just because you call them once or you email them once, that's not contacting them that much. You should be able to contact these guys at least 5 times for each SAW, right? So don't give up, right? Keep on contacting every few days. Send another email, phone call, leave messages. And it's going to take a lot of work, but that's part of it. In any situation where there's high demand, right, you're going to have to stand out by doing more work, right? But if you put in the work, you got a good chance of getting one of these amazing spots. All right. The other way to contact and to secure SAW is actually to go not to the SAW, but go to find local churches or constituent groups, right? So these are local churches. You want to find local churches that have sponsored refugees in the past. Okay, and the reason why you want to do this is because if there's a church that has sponsored a refugee in the past, usually it means that they've worked with a SAW organization already, right? So they know a SAW organization, and the SAW organization knows them. So what you want to do, again, you want to say you have the funds, okay? Because a lot of these local churches and groups, they don't have the money, right, to put into your family or your case. And then probably 95% or more of the emails they get, like, the people don't have any money, and the local churches can't help them because they don't have the money either. So please, when you contact them, do not start off with your big story of your entire life, because they get those emails all the time. Start off by saying, hey, you're a refugee in this country, you're Afghan refugee, let's say, in this country, and you have the funds yourself, right? You have the funds for private sponsorship, and you're just looking for, right, a local church, a local constituent group, right, to help you find a SAW and turn in an application and be, right, your support in a way. The other thing, what you want to do, again, you want to ask for a phone call. Okay? Don't be tempted by writing this crazy, thing out. Get the phone call first, right? And explain. Just ask for a 5-minute phone call. Get them, to listen to your story a bit, right? Then you want to follow up. Like you need to have like your story, right? Your case. You want to have like photo. If you have your video of kind of your whole story, all that is good stuff. Copy of your UNHCR like card or whatever, just stuff that you can follow up later, right? Don't send that stuff initially because they don't need it, they don't want it, right? It's only after the phone call and they're wanting more information, right? You could do all that stuff. All right, the goal though is if the local church or constituent group can get on a phone with you and then they like you basically and they want to help you out, they want to sponsor you, they don't need to give the funds because you have the funds. So then they can contact the SAW organization they worked with before, and they say, hey, we sponsored an organization, a refugee through you before, we want to sponsor another one. And then the SAW will be actually pretty happy to talk with this local church because they know the local church and they've had a good relationship with the local church. And they'll say, yeah, sure. Who is this person? When you contact the local church, please make sure that you tell them that you're a vulnerable Afghan that qualifies for the special Afghan program. Many of the local churches won't know there's a special Afghan program right now, but you might need to tell them about it, right? These are extra slots, they're expedited. So you might need to tell them, but you're basically needing a church to help you, right? To be the local constituent group, to contact the SAW organization that they know, so that you can, get your family over, right? That's the whole kind of goal here. And the reason why this is a great approach is because a lot of the SAHs, when a refugee contacts them, it's kind of hard for them to know whether to trust the person. But when a church that they worked together already in the past contacts them, then go, yeah, great, we'd love to help you, sponsor another refugee. So how do you find a local church? Well, I think the best way is probably to Google, every city in Canada, Google the name and Google local, like church, refugee sponsor or something, and just look for every single church in the whole country of Canada that has sponsored refugees. Now, Canada has been sponsoring refugees for many years, doing private sponsorship, and there are so many groups that have sponsored refugees. So there are probably hundreds, not thousands of these groups. So you just need to do the work, research, find them, right? Another kind of good idea is to find people, even past group of fives or refugee advocates, people who've worked with refugees or who've helped refugees in the past. They will know other people that maybe are part of churches or part of SAHs or part of groups that are helping refugees. So you want to share your story with as many people as possible, right? And they might be able to help you. But the goal is, again, if you have the funds, you just need the SAW and the local constituent group, right? And then you can, you've got all the pieces together, right? And the other thing is be persistent, right? Don't give up. So many people just think, oh, I did 50 emails, right? And no one gets back to me, so they're not interested, so they give up, right? And I think this is a terrible mistake because you have to realize they're getting people, these organizations are getting so many emails. It's up to you to first make your email stick out, right? And then you need to tell them, right, you have the funds. You need to ask for a phone call, right? You need to, keep on contacting them, right? Don't give up. Like one time is not enough. You need to keep on contacting the same people over and over again. And you need to, I think, try to, make 1,000+ emails, right? And more importantly are the phone calls, right? You need like good, maybe 200 to 300 phone calls, And yeah, and you need to be focused on this. Here's the problem. Here's the thing. No one's going to do this work for you. You're going to have to do it, right? No one is motivated as much as for your case as you are, right? And your family. And so, there are a lot of people who, maybe want to help, but the thing is they don't have the time that you might have to do it for yourself or your family. So for example, this is what I've learned in this process. So I've been helping several families through this process. And what I realized is you need three things. You need the funds. Two is you need hard work. And three is you need the right information. Okay? So what I'm trying to do in this video is I'm trying to give you guys the right information. This information is what you need, right, to get a spot in the Special Afghan program, to get you or your family over to Canada quickly through this program. You need to know that this program exists, right, and how to do it, how to go about it. And so the right information is really, really important, right? And the second thing is you need the hard work, and you can't expect other people to do it for you because other people are busy, right? They have so many things to do. Like I can't do the hard work for you. Stephen can't do the hard work for you. No one's going to do it for you. You're going to have to do it. You're going to have to make the phone calls. You're going to have to do the emails. You're going to have to go after it if you really want it, right? And the funds, same thing, right? It's your responsibility to secure the funds. Now, if you have these three things, then I think there's a very good chance you can get a spot in the Special Afghan program if you move quickly. I think every week that goes by, these spots are going to be taken up. There'll be less and less spots for the Special Afghan program. It'll get harder and harder to do. So yeah, right when you watch this video, you watch this, don't make excuses. Don't wait. Take action. Start calling every day, all day long, right? Doing emails, trying to get a local church or a SAH to talk to you, to listen to your story. And here's the other thing. Even if the Special Afghan program doesn't work out, and let's say you're watching this video, maybe you're watching it late, it's by the time you watch it, maybe it's like already March or April or something, or later on in the year. And maybe the spots are gone, but the regular program in Canada is amazing as well. It takes obviously longer than the special expedited program, but the regular program is such amazing opportunity because you get permanent residence in Canada right when you arrive, and you get all the rights of a Canadian citizen. And so yeah, it's the same information I'm giving you guys, right? And you have different choices, right? You can do a group of 5, you can do a SAW, but yeah, if you have the funds, right, you can make it happen. Again, it's just hard work to make it happen. Here's a few other things, okay? So I'm going to lay out a process, the entire process, okay, of all the steps that you need to do, I think, in order to get a Special Afghan spot. If you're watching this too late, then to get a regular spot for the Canadian private sponsorship group. Okay, so number one, you want to contact a ton of local churches, right, that have sponsored refugees before. Okay, and you want to contact probably hundreds, right? You don't want to give up. Yeah, don't think that you just make 10 phone calls and you'll get the spot, right? No, you need to make hundreds of phone calls. And here's the thing, phone calls are better than emails. Because phone calls, you get to talk with someone if they pick up, right? If they don't pick up, then email, that's true. But still, try to get the phone calls and be prepared to make hundreds and hundreds of phone calls, even more emails. Like this, you really have to set your mind that this is not going to be easy to do. And then get on the phone, tell your story, right? You want to tell your story to as many people as you can, and then follow up after you tell the story. Send them, your story in writing and more information and documents and stuff, etc. And then you want to try to get this local church to commit to sponsor you, to be the local constituent group, so then they can contact the SAH that they know. Okay, so this is the second step, is to secure a spot with the SAH. So you want the SAH, the sponsorship agreement holder, to commit a spot to you or your family for the special Afghan program. Okay. And yeah, so again, probably the easiest is to the local church ask the SAH, but yeah, you can contact the SAH directly. I think you should do that too as well. Contact them directly. Some of the SAHs are small, so they can actually be the constituent group themselves. So contact them, phone call. Phone call is always better than email. But email is as well. But, again, they get hundreds of emails. So you got to stick out. You got to be persistent. And you need to make hundreds of phone calls and hundreds of emails and get that spot, right? Because there are a lot of SAHs that still have special Afghan spots. A lot of them don't have the regular spots for this year left. That's taken usually a year or two before. But they have these special Afghan spots. And they're going to get more probably. So get on their wait list, right, for special Afghan spots. So hey, I need to get a spot for the special Afghan program, right? This Operation Afghan Safety. I'm a vulnerable Afghan, right, refugee. I qualify as a persecuted ethnic, right, or religious minority, and I have the funds, right? So I need to get this done. And get the spot. That's the key, right? And then after that, if the SAH commits to you and you have that local constituent group, then they'll have you work on the application. Okay? And so you'll work on the application. It's quite lengthy, and it's best to always, you need to be honest, but you need to do a comprehensive job on it, right? You need to work well. I suggest talking with Stephen Watts here at Northern Lights to go ahead and get him to review your application, make it very solid, right, before you turn it in. But don't take too long on it, because you can turn in your application immediately if the SAH commits a spot to you, right? And if they get that permit, the green light from the IRCC to turn in your application as a vulnerable Afghan, then they can turn it in. And but before you work on the application, then the SAH will usually require the transfer of funds, okay, before you turn in the application. So they'll require the transfer of funds to their account. Now they'll hold that money in the account until you or your family arrive, and then during the first year, it gets distributed to you on a monthly basis. After the funds are transferred, then the SAH will turn in the application, right, to IRCC, and basically that's it. You're set. Like, the government now will review it. Now, I've talked to a couple SAHs, and they're saying that typically, and it depends on the person and application, but they say over 90%, sometimes over 95% of the applications usually get approved. There's rare cases where, application might be delayed or might not be approved because maybe they do an international background check and the person was maybe part of a government that the US or Canada doesn't like, or some different things. There's some small things like that. But typically with these refugee programs, there's a very, very high acceptance rate. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I'm just saying usually there is, especially with the SAH program. So yeah, if you go through this, you turn in an application, that's pretty much all you do. And you wait for the government's response, and hopefully, they approve it and give you an interview. If you get to Canada, it's going to be an amazing opportunity, just because, you get full rights, permanent residence right away. It's crazy. So that's pretty much, I think, the entire process, at least the application process. I think that's about it. If we get some good response from this, I'll go ahead and maybe I'll make another video. I'll interview someone I've worked with who's Hazara, who was a Hazara refugee to Canada, and she did this whole process to try to invite her family right, to Canada. And she recently just got a spot in the, the special Afghan program. She went through the whole process, fundraising. She turned in her application recently, and I could kind of maybe interview her and talk with her on some tips maybe that she learned on how to do this process as well. So anyways, watch this, and I hope this has been helpful. Don't wait, get to work, on securing a spot. If you can, I think this is a great opportunity. If you don't have funds, get the funds quick and do these steps, right? If you're able to. But overall, I think the important thing is you want to have the information, right? Because if you don't have the information, you don't know what to do. So this video was an attempt to try to give you the basic information of the steps you need to take, not just for regular sponsorship, but for the special Afghan program, which is expedited and can be super fast to get to Canada. It's basically free because whatever funds, right, you get it back the first year. It's an amazing program. I want you guys to take advantage of it and to try to get a spot, especially if you've been waiting for a long time. You can't just wait. You need to seize it, the opportunity, and work hard for it. So just want to encourage you for that. And people are finding success in this program, and I hope you find success as well. All right. Thanks. We'll see you. Bye.